This is
Yeah,
cool. Very cool. Well, thank you very much for having me. Super
you're
excited to be here.
you're very welcome. I'm going to go ahead and do the introduction, and
Okay.
uh, and then we'll just jump right in. So, hi everybody. I'm Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and some of you who are watching this have joined me every month. We have a Facebook Live class on my Psychic Protection Sanctuary Facebook group. So I recognize some of you, and some of you are on here to see Melinda Mae Miller, and that's awesome. So before we get into introducing Melinda Mae Miller, I just want to introduce myself for those of you who are new to this program. So once again, I'm Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary, and I help people who are experiencing unwanted paranormal activity, as well as people who are having issues with oversensitivity to the energies around them. And my website is www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. Now, those of you who are used to following me know that I do a lot of videos about unwanted paranormal activity and how to deal with that. Well, we have a special surprise today with Melinda joining us because she's going to be talking about and sharing some stories about some positive spirit encounters. And we don't get to hear about that very often on my group. Melinda and I actually met a couple of months ago. She travels around as a psychic medium, teaching classes and doing readings all over the country right now. That's what she's doing. She's on a tour. So we had the opportunity to meet now that she's in my area, and we've really hit it off, and we've had a lot of great conversations. And we were
Mhm.
chatting time and like, hey, I should have you come on as a guest on our Facebook Live, because Melinda was telling me about some really cool stories from some of her clients. So we'll get to hear about some of those today. So, Melinda, I would love it if you could introduce yourself a little more in depth. Tell of our people here what you would most want them to know about you. And by the way, I haven't acknowledged everybody yet. Hi, everybody. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. And we'll address you all in just a minute. So, first, Melinda,
Well,
welcome.
first of all, thanks very much for having me. As you said, I travel around the country. I go to smaller areas of the country that aren't really served by mediumship. I feel like I'm on a mission, and that mission is to help people lift themselves up and see above the low vibration of the stuff that drags us down on this planet and keeps us from being the best. What I call it is who we really are. Living who we really are. And as you said, Maya and I met in a class and we did hit it off. We have some really great conversations. I enjoy your company very much, and it's really, really nice to make a friend on the road. So I've been reading for clients for about 3 years, I guess, 2, 3 years. I began my mediumship development about 10 years ago, but I did not start developing my mediumship abilities in order to read for clients. I have been like this my whole life. The first experience that I remember, I was 3 years old. I had developed a friendship with an angel. I did not know at the time that's what was going on. I was 3 years old. I thought he was just another kid like me. I was about 8 when I realized that other people did not see, hear, and feel the same things that I see, hear, and feel. And then through nobody wants to be the weird kid. I was already the weird kid outside of the mediumship stuff. I was not interested. I was interested in science fiction when little girls weren't supposed to be into science fiction. I was interested in building things and wood shop. I was in the very first girls' wood shop class at my junior high. So I was already the weird kid. So I didn't really talk about this stuff much. And in fact, I when I was about 11 or 12, I did two things. One, I started pretending that I don't have it. And two, I started studying it. I started reading everything I could get my hands on about paranormal activities, metaphysics, um, psychic phenomena. I was looking for an explanation to prove to myself that it was real so that I could start talking about it. Well, that never really happened. So throughout my life, I always had these experiences, very strange experiences. Sometimes to me, they were so real that I would say, come on, please tell me somebody saw that. And my friends would go, saw what, Melinda? And so, I just pretty much kept it to myself. Well, when I was in my 40s, I experienced a very traumatic, emotionally traumatic event. And it's actually really common for mediums to experience a traumatic event and then their mediumship really takes a leap. And that's what happened to me. I went through an emotional trauma and my mediumship just took a leap and I needed to know how to make it stop. So I literally sat down and I Googled psychic in my town. And this website popped up and the lady looked very nice. She looked like a soccer mom lady. She didn't look spooky at all. So I made an appointment and I went in and she said, Melinda, so nice to meet you. Please have a seat. How can I help you? And I said, and I did it just like this. Dead people won't stop talking to me. I need to know how to make it stop. And she was shocked. She said, why would you want to make it stop? That's wonderful. And that is not what I wanted to hear. So she educated me a bit, and I started taking psychic development classes simply to learn how to control my experiences. And I did that for years. I took classes with her. I continued reading. I developed a regular meditation routine. And then I started having very mystical experiences in my own life. And I continued my development simply because it's really cool. It's like living in a magic world when you get information and you do it and it's correct, and that's what led me to New Orleans several years ago. And when I got there, I thought I was moving to New Orleans to party with good-looking guitar players in my old age. But it turns out I was moving there to continue developing my mediumship. A school had just opened that year, and I began taking classes there. I considered myself a full-time student. I studied everything I could get my hands on, from ritual to women and religion to crystal work, candle work, mediumship development, trance work, and that led me to study in England at Arthur Findlay College. And then one day I was meditating and I was told it's time to start serving people now. And I was like, oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, I'm not ready for that. But it turns out I was. And that's what I do now. And now I can't imagine myself doing anything else. But if you told me that 10 years ago, I would have said, you are nuts, nuts.
I can totally relate to that. Yeah, completely. So
Yeah.
this is awesome. I sent Melinda my questions ahead of time. So this is great because you already answered some of my questions, but I'm going to revisit a couple of them just if there's anything else that you want to add. So my question is, when was the first time that you experienced spirit communication, during your childhood when you were growing up?
Yeah, actually, I did just touch on that at the age of 3. And there's actually more to that story. That story continues after I moved to New Orleans. But what happened is I remember being 3 years old. My mom had a Falcon. Back then, most of the cars didn't have seatbelts. Seatbelts were an option. They weren't required. And she just plopped me in the back seat, right on the seat. We didn't use car seats. And I really clearly remember her putting me in the back seat of the car, and she and my grandmother got in the front seat. And we were going to the store, and she starts driving, and I looked to my left, and there was a kid sitting next to me. And I said, who are you? And he said, my name's Billy. And we struck up a friendship. And Billy was with me for years and years and years and years and years. And to me, even though I didn't really talk about him much to other people, because I know it was the whole imaginary friend thing, but I knew he was real. I knew he was real. And it kind of offended me when people doubted it. So I just learned, even at that young age, to keep it to myself. Well, when I got older, he just kind of was not there anymore. And that, that was fine. Kids grow out of things. So I moved to New Orleans, and I went to what they call a silent supper. I don't know, are you familiar with a silent supper event?
No.
It's like everybody brings a dish, and then there are readers, and there's no speaking. The idea is contemplation and sitting in the energy, and then you receive a message, and you return to your meal, and you contemplate the message. It's really very, very solemn, and it's incredibly intense. So I went to a silent supper that was held on Day of the Dead, and my name was drawn for the reading, and the reader said, she gave me a lot of information. Part of the information was Archangel Michael works very closely with you. I didn't believe in angels. And I was like, yeah, okay, well, that's it. I took the information, but I didn't understand it because I didn't believe in angels. So I had a very profound experience. I went into sort of a semi-trance state when I returned to the table. I started convulsing, and I had a vision, and it sat with me for about a week. In the vision, three ascended masters approached me. They were hooded. I couldn't see their faces. It was dark. They had hoods and it was dark, but they were very real, and they told me they had come to work with me. And they started visiting me at night in my dreams. Well, one of them, the second day they were with me, he like slapped a big silly smile across his face. And it's kind of a long story. I will jump to the end. After a couple of weeks of this, that a master with the silly smile came to me in a meditation, took off his hood, and revealed himself to be Archangel Michael. He said, I have to tell you something. You used to call me Billy. My name is not really Billy. My name is Michael. And I've been with you your whole life. And then he started explaining things to me about our relationship and my relationship to him. And I was just looking at it. And I finally said, but I don't believe in angels. And he said, I don't know what to tell you. Here I am. And yeah, so Billy actually was Michael, who has been with me my whole life. That's one of my favorite stories. So the age of 3 until today, I've had the same people working with me.
That's so awesome. I love that story.
I do
So,
too.
so both of us teach psychic development to our students. And
Hmm.
so, a question for you that I think all of the psychic development students and all of those who are seeking to learn more and understand more about that would want to know.
Sure.
Um, how does the information come through for you when you're doing a mediumship reading
Hmm.
for a client and you're connecting with their loved one on the other side? Like, are you seeing things? Are you hearing things? Are you knowing things? Are you sensing things physically,
Yeah.
etc.? How is that coming
For
through for
the
you?
for the most part, when I'm doing a mediumship reading, I get most of my information through my clairsentience, through my feeling, and
Uh-huh.
then it's supplemented with sounds and images. I do get words and images. Most of my images come as symbols, but occasionally they're literal. I actually do receive information from all of my psychic senses, but those are the three. Those are the three main uh, things, and it's very, learning to work with that clairsentience in that way, that took some time because I didn't realize that's how I received most of my information. And trying to turn, like, the name Tammy, trying to explain how that feels, is difficult. But then I feel that any student, if they work on developing their clairsentience, they get that comes. You
Mm,
start feeling it just as, and I think you would know what I mean. You start just knowing what a feeling is just as much as an image or a sound or anything else.
mhm. And learning to trust that information
But
because
that,
clairsentience, those feelings within you, it's so easy to say, um, "Oh, that's nothing." It's
yes,
nothing, right? Because it's so subtle.
yes, that is the one of the hardest things I found. Not hardest, but when I teach my students, teaching the trust. I believe is the most difficult leap of faith to make. But the example that I give them is, how many times did you have a bad feeling about something, you did it anyway, and you regretted it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you didn't trust. So I tell them, next time you get that feeling, even if everyone around you is telling you you're wrong, go with your gut. You will be correct. And that's how you start trusting. I think you start
Mm-hmm.
trusting by doing it, by following it.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. For sure. Awesome. So, before we get into some cool stories, um, let's go ahead and acknowledge all of the people that are watching. And so just saying hi again. And those of you who are watching live, if you could type in where you're joining from. So city and state, country, some of you, we're Melinda,
Oh,
recording this in the United States. But
I see some
if you,
familiar names in there. Hi, guys.
yeah, so if you could go ahead and type where you're joining from. And then if you have any questions for Melinda, feel free to ask. We will get to them if we have time. And I should clarify, we're not doing mediumship readings today. We're not doing psychic readings today. We're just
Yeah.
sharing stories. But if you
Right. And
have questions about mediumship in general and all of that, so we have gosh, lots of people. Wow. Okay, so Stacy from Kearney, Missouri. Sky near Raleigh, North Carolina. Sky, I want to hear more about North Carolina later. Becky, Kansas City, Missouri. Jane, Brooklyn, New York. Ashley, Kansas City metro area. Um, Jeannie, Piper, Kansas City, Kansas. Um, Rose, San Antonio, Texas. Cynthia, Boston, Massachusetts. Stacy, Beaumont, Texas. Jamie, Independence, Missouri. Anne, British Columbia, Canada. And Amy, Kansas City, Kansas. That's awesome.
hi, guys.
Um, Phyllis from Kansas City, Missouri. Yay, that's awesome. So, and actually, there were some people that while you were talking a little while ago, there were some people that were still requesting to join the group after we
Oh,
had started. So
oh, wow.
because the only person on here, I was able to go on and let
Right.
them in. So
Oh, great, great, great. Yeah, I told them to just tell you that I sent them.
yeah, yeah, they
That's
did. So
awesome.
that was awesome. Yeah.
Beautiful,
So
beautiful.
so I would love to hear some stories. And
Sure.
I know we're going to talk about some stories that involve positive spirit communications. But before
Hmm.
we do that, as I was hearing you talk in the last segment, I am really curious to hear if you have a story that comes to mind that for you as a medium, a situation that was very validating for you that helped validate your skills, right? I have a couple of stories in my mind of things that happened that I was still trying to learn to trust my
Yeah.
abilities, and I would receive information that was like so off the wall, and I would be like, oh, this sounds crazy, but I would tell them
Right.
anyway, and they'd be
Right.
like, oh God, how did you know? So do you have any a cool story
I
like that?
think the very first reading I did for a client that really I felt validated my skills was at a psychic fair. When I first started out reading for clients, I started at a monthly psychic fair in New Orleans. And the very first week, this gal came in and sat down. And of course, they're only 20-minute readings. And I had really just started reading for people, even though I'd been doing it for myself for so long. And so she sat down, and I immediately knew she had a brother. And when we learn or mediumship, we're given kind of a formula to follow as we're doing the reading, and that is gender relationships, something about their life, something about how they passed, and the message. That's just kind of a framework. So immediately I said, I feel this is a man, he's a brother. And then I said to him, sir, tell me how you died. And I saw a noose with a body. And And I went, oh my God, I was so unprofessional. I would never do that now, but I went, oh my God. And I like doubled over on the chair. And then I sat up and I said, I'm so sorry. And then I said, I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to do that. And I said, this is really morbid. I'm so sorry to say this, but I asked him how he passed, and he showed me a noose. And she said, yes, that's correct. He hung himself.
Mm.
And I was just as floored as her. But that was really when I knew, okay, this is who I am. I validated for me that I deserved to be a professional. But if you want a funny story, I have some very funny stories.
Yeah.
Most of my funny stories
Hold,
happened
hold,
just
hold
in my
on.
private life. I'm sorry?
So 1 second. So hold that
Yes.
thought. Okay.
Okay.
So those of you who are developing your psychic skills, these kinds of validating experiences are super important
Mm-hmm.
because it really, those validating experiences are what help you to establish trust, trusting yourself and trusting your abilities. Because so much of this stuff, like it really feels crazy. Like if you were to analyze it
Mm-hmm.
with your mind, you'd be like, no way, no way. You'd be arguing with yourself. And the those of you who are working on developing your abilities, I'm sure you can relate to the arguing with yourself thing that I'm talking about. So the more situations where your abilities are validated, then it helps you to become even stronger in your skills because you develop that trust. You're like,
Absolutely.
oh, I actually must know what I'm doing. I actually
Yes.
am doing this. And so that
Yes.
that trust kicks in. And once you have more trust, then the abilities open up even more too.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. That
yeah.
is absolutely true. And um, in fact, as I mentioned, most of my development for years was just me in meditating and working with people who came to me in spirit. I have a grandmother I work with, and like I said, angels and whatever. They would come to me in meditation, and they started playing. I used to call it scavenger hunts. We would play a game, and basically they would give me a task: go to the Walmart, buy the blue blanket that's in the far right corner. And I would go to Walmart and there's produce in the far right corner, but I'd go there anyway. And sure enough, someone's dumped a blanket off in the wrong place or whatever, things like that. So one day, right after I had moved to New Orleans, somebody had gifted me an antique or very, very old kitchen set. It was really cute. The top of the table was really beat up though, but with a tablecloth, it would be fun. And I wanted a tablecloth, but I'm a little bit particular. I wanted a certain color and a certain kind of fabric. And tablecloths aren't really a thing anymore. It's very hard to find nice ones that don't cost $200. So anyway, I put it out there and I'm just waiting to come across my tablecloth. So one morning, about 2 weeks after I got the table, I woke up. And as soon as I woke up, I heard my grandmother's voice say, there's a store called Tuesday Morning. It's in Gretna, Louisiana. It's right across the river from where I live. I sat up and heard my grandmother's voice say, go to Tuesday Morning and buy a tablecloth. And I was like, what if well, do I have to go all the way to Gretna? What if it's not the one I want? Blah, 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 blah. But I did it because I've learned that was how they taught me. So I got dressed and I drove across the river to Gretna and I went to that store. And there was only one tablecloth in the whole store. It was exactly what I wanted, the right colors, the right fabric, and the right size for my table. And I loved it. And every time I looked at it on my kitchen table, it was like a little secret, like a little gift. To me, those kinds of experiences, trusting what you're receiving in your own life as well as when you're working with people, that's how I built my trust. That's really how I built it, was trusting the information I received about my own life. And so it wasn't a big leap when I started working with clients to take that trust to them as well.
Yeah, that's a cool story. I love it. I want to
Thanks.
see a picture of the tablecloth sometime.
I probably have one somewhere. It's just like a nice tablecloth, but it was the right colors, it was the right style, it's exactly what I wanted. But
Mhm.
those kinds of little games are the way my team trained me. And then once they had me as far as they could take me, they started sending me to work with instructors here in the physical world.
So by team, you're referring to your spiritual team, your
Mhm.
uh, guides and angels,
Yes,
etc.
yes, I have a, a team of besides Michael. I have a spirit guide who has been with me my whole life, a Native American. I call him Tony because it's easier than pronouncing the. Actually, that's kind of funny. When he finally, he'd been with me for years. He finally gave me his name in meditation, and I was having trouble pronouncing it, but I was trying. I was trying, and I was trying, and he finally said, "Just call me Tony." So I call him Tony. Um, and interestingly, in a lot of my classes where we do we would do mediumship exercises, other people have seen him as well, which just validates to me he is real. So I work with Tony, I work with Michael. I have a grandmother in spirit who's worked with me very closely ever since she passed. I also have a couple of other ancestors, including my birth father, who works with me very closely as well.
Mhm. Well, very cool. So my next question is, can you share one or more stories, cool stories about
Mhm.
positive spirit
Yes.
communication with your clients? So you mentioned in particular, there was one story where the client thought that it was something bad happening, but
Mhm.
it actually was something good. So
Yes.
feel free to
Yeah,
share a
this
couple.
is a, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's okay. So feel free to share a couple stories.
Yeah, that's actually one of my favorite stories. I was down in Beaumont, Texas. It was my first trip to Beaumont. It was a long time ago. And this gal had contacted me on Facebook and she asked if I do house readings. And I said, well, yeah, actually, I could do a house reading. She didn't tell me anything about what was going on, except that she had experienced something really disturbing in her bedroom. Then she was out of town. Her son walked into the bedroom and he saw something and felt something like come at him, like to attack him. And it scared him clearly. And he shut the door and he called his mom. And she said, call, the neighbor. And so the friend, Jill came over. Jill saw it and felt it as well. They were really freaked out, as you can imagine. So this gal got home from her trip and she began hearing animal noises in the house. Now she does have dogs, but these were not dog noises. It was like growling, wild animal noises coming from under the furniture, things like that. And she was really, she was very disturbed. She didn't know what was going on. So she asked if I could come and do a house reading. So we got to the home, and she kind of walked me through the house. And when we got to her bedroom, I went in first. She was behind me. I opened the door and I saw and felt the energy coming in. I physically felt it coming at my face. Um, it looked like it looked like the Target logo, like kind of like a bullseye, except that would have been shadows instead of colors, if that makes sense. And I physically felt the energy. And so when I saw that, as I walked in and I saw and felt that, I said, whoa, I'm an invited guest here. She asked me to be here, and it stopped and went to the back corner of the room. Now I was like, whoa, I don't know what I've got myself into. So I'm calling in my people and saying, okay, just show me what I need to do, show me what's going on. So we sat down. I didn't, of course, tell the lady that's what happened. I kept it to myself and sat on the edge of the bed. And immediately a man stepped forward for me, and he was like doing this, like he was trying to use some kind of sign language. He wasn't communicating in the way I'm used to. Um, it, it, I didn't understand what was going on. Then all of a sudden, it was like he put his hands on my head, and I had a horrible headache. All of a sudden, like that, my head hurt so bad. And I said to her, "Do you get headaches?" And she said, "Only when I'm in the bedroom." Okay.
Mm.
So I didn't understand what was going on with this man. I'd never had a communication like this. So I asked my father, who works with me, to assist. My father came in and then told me he doesn't know how to communicate with you. And I said, well, then can you help him? So my father started kind of acting as a go-between. Um, I asked the man, I asked what his name was, and I got like I saw first of all like a scar. It was like, it looked like a zigzag or something on his arm, and I was getting information, and as I was getting the information, when I read, I ask people to validate, does this make sense to you? Do you understand? So she was saying yes, she understood. It sounded very much like her godfather, who had been passed for a few years, she was very close to. And then um, I was asking about the name, and I just saw like a wild, almost like if an animal, like if a cougar or something went, and I didn't understand it, so I just told her what I was getting. Well, it turned out his name is Grizz. He was putting his hands on my head because he was trying to force his thoughts into my thoughts. He didn't understand the communication. So he brought through some more very validating evidence. And basically his message was he's always felt very protective over her, and he was there to watch out for her. He helped her with her animals, and he just wanted to stay close. He kept an eye on her. He just didn't know how to make himself known. He didn't understand the communication process. So once we had that cleared, and she was feeling very, very good now, he stepped aside, and I went back to that first energy that I felt when I walked into the room. And now, of course, I had my father with me. I felt very safe. He's not going to let anything happen to me. Uh, that person stepped forward. The home that this gal lived in used to be a beauty salon back in the day. And it was always filled with women, like the old beauty salons were. And it turned out this fellow who stepped forward had an old connection to the property, and he had just always been very protective of the women. She was the only woman in the house now, so he was very protective of her.
Mm-hmm.
So my father and I had a conversation. Um, I explained to my client what I was receiving, and then I said to him, "You're scaring people. It's wonderful that you want to be protective. You're scaring people." And I said, she can let you know when she needs your protection. And then we wrapped up the session. There was a little more than that. That was the gist of it. I explained to her, this is what you can do. He feels very protective. He's always been around here. It was, we talked about the beauty salon thing. I said, if you feel you need protection, you can ask him and he will come in. And after that, she never got another headache in the bedroom. All of the phenomena she had been experiencing stopped. Including like the people feeling attacked when they walked into her room. The animal noises, everything stopped. We're pretty certain now the animal noises were her godfather, who went by the name of Grizz, that he was just trying to get her attention. He actually did have a zigzag scar on his arm where he was had been swiped at by a bear, and that's why they called it Grizz. So that is one of my favorite stories, because I did go in really not knowing what to expect, but knowing that these people were very, very scared. And it turned out to be something that nobody understood. So I was able to be the mediator, basically.
Mm-hmm. I think that is a great story. I love that story because, well, it's, some of the symptoms, some of the things that were happening would often be symptoms of negative spirit
Mm-hmm.
activity.
Right.
And so this is why it's so important. I think it's a vital skill for someone going in and doing house clearings to have some type of psychic abilities, mediumship abilities,
Mm-hmm.
something way to be able to
Right.
tune in to what's going on. Because if we were looking at just the symptoms, like the people feeling really attacked, it felt
Right.
like negative energy, and there were animal noises, and
Mm-hmm.
all that can be indicative of demonic activity in the home.
Right.
And
Right.
so, with your mediumship skills, you were able to tune in and get a really clear answer to what was going on. And I just love that. That
Hmm.
is a story.
Yeah,
Perfect.
I love it too, because one of the things that I teach my students is sometimes I believe sometimes things are just misunderstood. And
Mhm.
I understand that because before I began developing this, I had some experiences that were very, very scary. If I had those same experiences now, I would approach it differently. But when you don't know, especially if you don't even do this for a living or you're not around this a lot, and all of a sudden you're hearing the animal noises and you know the attacks in the bedroom and everything, of course you're going to be scared. Of course it's scary. I
Mhm.
thought it was really cool to be able to turn it around and make it a positive thing.
Yeah. I love that story. I love it, love
Yeah,
it. Well, we do have time for another brief story if there's anything
sure.
else you'd like.
Sure. Gosh, I have so many. They're not all as that. I love that story. That's one of my very favorites. But I really like sharing the stories of how spirit validates their presence in the life of their loved ones. I have a lot of those that I share at my events, and one of my very favorites is when I was in Houston, Texas, a couple of years ago. I did a what we call a demonstration where I stand like what you see on TV, stand in front of the audience, and I deliver messages, and I do a little talk first. So I was reading for a woman in the audience, and her grandmother came through very, very strongly, and I went through my you know my little script, tell me about how you passed and this and that, and then I got to the message, and I asked her to offer something to validate to the woman that this was a real communication. And the grandmother said she carries a coin with an angel on it in her wallet. Everywhere she goes, she has this gold coin with an angel on it. And I saw it so clearly. And I told the woman what the grandmother told me, and the woman said, "No, no, I don't." And I said, "Okay, well, maybe I'm wrong. Let me get some more information." And the grandmother didn't let up. She has a coin with an angel on it in her wallet. She carries it with her everywhere she goes. And she showed me like, you know, it was here, and then she put it in the wallet and blah blah. And the woman kept saying, "I'm sorry, no." So I don't when I'm reading for someone, what I tell them is if something doesn't make sense to you, that's fine. We're not going to beat it to death. We will leave it there and move on because it will make sense eventually. It might not be tonight, might be in a week, might be in a month, but it will make sense. Spirit does not waste our time. So we moved on, but I was really thinking she left it in another purse or something and forgot. At the end of the evening, she raised her hand and she said, "I have to share something with you." And she pulled out her wallet, unzipped it, just like I saw, unzipped it, and pulled out a gold coin with an angel on it. She said, "I forgot this was in here." She said, "I put this in my wallet right after my grandmother passed and then completely forgot about it until just now." She said, "I didn't even think of it while you were giving me the information."
Mhm.
To me, that is that's the best validation you can ask for, where I certainly don't know, my client doesn't know, and the answer makes sense afterwards because that's a true communication. Now, I
Yeah,
had
that's
another one. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, go
There's
ahead.
another story. One more story I'd love to share. One of my clients in the Kansas City area, I read for her last year. Her husband came through very strongly. He's an excellent communicator, and he brought a lot of really, really wonderful validations. Then he showed me a coin, like one of those Chinese coins with the hole in the middle. And
Mm.
I said to her, "Did he collect coins? No. Did he have a lucky coin? No. Nothing made sense." I said, "Well, I'm just going to tell you what I'm seeing. It's a copper coin with a hole in the middle. I don't know what it means. So we'll just leave it there and move on." Well, about 2 hours after I left her house, I got a text from her. She was getting dressed to go to dinner with some friends, and she was looking for a pendant to wear. And she opened her jewelry box, and right on top of the jewelry box was a penny with a hole in the middle. She's never seen it before. And it was sitting on top of an old return address label that had her husband's name on it that she hasn't used in years. So not only did he bring her a validation that neither one of us was aware of, he was kind of letting her know he was leaving her a gift, is what that was.
That's so cool. Yeah, because, you know, I'm sure that a lot of people come to you because um, they miss that person and they want some way to
Hmm.
validate, like, is that person okay?
Right.
Um, are they thinking about me? Are they with me? And you're able to really
Exactly.
help in a lot of healing that
That's
way.
really the truth. And mediumship is really not about the medium. It's not about, look what I can do. I could talk to, I could talk
Mhm.
to the invisible people. It's really not what it's about. Mediumship is really about providing evidence of survival. It's about facilitating the healing of grief, not only for our people here, but our people in spirit have healing to do as well. They are often working on things that they should have done differently in their life. Maybe they didn't treat people well. Maybe they took their own life. Maybe they had substance abuse problems that led to their death. They are working on healing those things, just like our people here are working on healing their grief. That's really what mediumship is about, is healing, facilitating evidence so that we know that consciousness continues, and trying to let people know there is more going on around them than what we see with our physical eyes.
Mhm. Exactly. So, and we actually sort of answered our next question. But if you have anything that you'd like to add to this, then feel free. It's what would you want your potential clients to know about connecting with their loved ones?
Oh, yeah, well, besides what I just brought up, that is something I go over with every client before I read. But I also explain to them that it's not mediumship is not like what you see on TV. As much as I love watching, Teresa Caputo and the other medium shows, television is edited to make it entertaining. Um, what I do, if you watch me without editing, I'm not especially entertaining. I would make a terrible television show. Excuse me. I would make a terrible television show. But we're going through the same process. I do ask questions when I read, but I only want my client to answer yes, no, or I don't know. I don't want them to give me any, if we call it feeding the medium. I don't want them to feed me any information, because the purpose is for them to leave knowing they experienced a true communication with their loved ones. So to that end, it's not spooky. It's not weird. I don't, become possessed. A trained medium is always in control, even if they're doing what we call trance work, which is short for entrancement. And it is when a medium goes into trance and the person speaks through their body, similar to channeling, but not the same thing. Um, Even then, the medium is always in control. When I'm working in trance, I can always bring myself out of it. I am always aware that I am sharing my energy with the person I'm working with. Um, and a mediumship message will never be derogatory. It will never be upsetting. I mean, as far as saying negative things. Anybody who gets a mediumship reading where they are told that people are trapped, where they are told that there's negative things going on here, they're given derogatory information about people, that is not a mediumship reading. That is somebody who is reading psychically and thinks they're performing mediumship, which are two very different things. When somebody reads psychically, they expand their energy to blend with the energy around them or your energy, and that's how information is obtained. When a medium reads, we open up and information is downloaded to us. Our energy goes here instead of here. Their saying is that psychics perceive and mediums receive. But a lot of people who are not trained don't understand that what they're doing is psychic and not mediumistic. So I think those are the most important things. A lot of people don't understand the difference, and a lot of people think it's spooky and weird, and it's not. Mediumship is powered by the energy of love. And I always want people to leave feeling better than when they came to me.
Very good points. Thank you for sharing all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So, how can people connect with you after this broadcast? So, Facebook,
Oh,
website, and also, do
yeah,
you have, I think we talked about a free
yeah.
gift.
Yes, I have an excerpt.
You?
My book will be published this month. It's called Life is Human: Simple Steps to Soul Alignment. And there's some stories from my life mixed in with lessons I learned from them about the purpose of our human existence and what we can do to try to raise ourselves up to that level. I have an excerpt from my book I would love to offer your people. They can go to melindamaymiller.com/Maya. And when we're done here, I'll put a link in up at the top so that they can get to it through there. They can go there and it'll go right to their email box if they enter their email address. I also have on my website, there's contact forums if they'd like to contact me that way. I'm on Facebook. I would love to have them subscribe to my YouTube channel. I publish a lot of short videos that answer questions about psychic development, mediumship development, meditation, things like that. And of course, I'm on Twitter and Instagram and everything else. Facebook, YouTube, and my website are the best ways to get me.
So melindamaymiller.com. Is that right?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And for the free gift, melindamaymiller.com/Maya.
Good. Very good. So awesome. Thank you so much. And I just want to say a little bit to everybody before we go. So once again, I'm Maya Zahira with Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And my website is www.psychicprotectionsanctuary.com. For those of you who haven't already gotten it, I do have a free gift on my website, and it's a quiz. Are you vulnerable to psychic attack? Now, that might sound kind of scary and everything, but I think the best defense is knowledge. So if you can be informed about any ways that you might be vulnerable, and there are actually things in that quiz that you may not have even thought of before. So taking the quiz allows you to get more informed and more empowered to do something to take positive action before anything negative would have a chance to have a chance to occur. So you can obtain that quiz by going to my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, and just enter in your email address. And let me think if we have anything else. Oh, announcements. We do have this free Facebook Live class in our Facebook group, the Psychic Protection Sanctuary. And this free Facebook Live happens the first Monday of every month. So if you enjoyed this, go ahead and join us next time. I don't have the topic yet, but I always take requests. So if you want to message me or post a comment about something you'd like for me to do a video on, we will cover that next time. All right.
I'm sorry, not to interrupt. Just had a quick thought. Can I plug my free talk this weekend?
Sure, go right ahead.
I'm currently in Lawrence, Kansas. This Saturday, I will be doing a free talk with a question and answer about how to connect to your loved ones for yourself. What are the signs they give you to show you that they are around? I would love to have you come and join us. The information is on my Facebook page, and you can also go to my website and send me a message. I'd be happy to get you the information that way.
Awesome. Awesome. Melinda and I end up chatting and gabbing for hours and hours and hours. And one time when we were talking, I was talking about my Facebook Live classes, and we were also spending a lot of time talking about YouTube. And I was kind of thinking that starting this month, I'm going to go ahead and also do a YouTube Live. So that will occur in a couple of weeks, I'm pretty sure. So just for announcements about that. And I'm pretty sure that's going to be a Q&A about psychic protection. And people have already submitted some really interesting questions to me. So stay tuned for that.
Oh, that would
I think
cool.
we're all, I think we're all done, Melinda. As much as I want to keep talking.
I know, me too.
So we are all done. Thanks, everybody. You already know how you can stay in contact with Melinda. So be sure to connect with her on Facebook, on her website, and subscribe to her YouTube channel so you can stay up to date. Thank you so much, Melinda, for sharing your time.
Oh, thanks for having me. This was fun.
All right. I think we're all done. We can go ahead
Okay.
and end.
All
Thanks.
right. Thanks, guys. Have a great evening.